As we begin our exploration of the Kingdom of Axum, let us drift back in time, to the highlands of what is now northern Ethiopia and Eritrea. Picture rolling mountains, terraced fields, and the gentle flow of rivers across a landscape both rugged and fertile. It is here, amidst this blend of natural beauty and practical abundance, that the story of Axum begins to unfold. Imagine the soft morning light spilling over rocky outcrops, illuminating villages constructed from stone and wood, where families tend crops and herds with careful attention, and the rhythm of life moves in quiet, deliberate harmony. Axum emerges in the 1st centuries BCE, evolving from a patchwork of small chiefdoms and settlements into a centralized state. The region's natural resources, including fertile soils, strategic elevation, and access to Red Sea trade routes, play a crucial role in this transformation. Highland farmers cultivate grains such as teff, wheat, and barley, while livestock graze on verdant slopes. Terracing, a sophisticated agricultural technique, allows communities to manage water efficiently and prevent soil erosion, ensuring the land remains productive year after year. These practical innovations create stability, supporting population growth and the emergence of centralized authority. Early Axumite society is characterized by a combination of local traditions and external influences. Archaeological evidence reveals connections with the southern Arabian kingdoms, the Nile Valley civilizations, and even the distant Mediterranean world. Trade in ivory, frankincense, myrrh, and exotic animals fosters cultural exchange, as foreign ideas, technologies, and practices are gradually absorbed into local society. Imagine a caravan arriving at a highland settlement, camels laden with goods from across the Red Sea, while villagers gather to observe unfamiliar cloths, metals, and pottery, curious about the distant lands from which they came. The political structure of early Axum is anchored in kingship, which combines religious, administrative, and military authority. Kings are regarded not only as rulers but also as intermediaries between the people and the divine. They oversee agricultural production, resolve disputes, and organize communal labor for construction and defense. Inscriptions and stelae suggest that early kings used monumental architecture to express authority, power, and legitimacy. These stone markers, often carved with intricate patterns and inscriptions, serve as both political symbols and reminders of continuity across generations. Religion plays an integral role in Axumite life from the earliest periods. While the kingdom eventually adopts Christianity as the state religion, its pre-Christian spiritual practices are deeply rooted in the land and its cycles. Ancestors, nature spirits, and local deities are honored through offerings, rituals, and communal ceremonies. Sacred groves, springs, and caves serve as sites of worship, reflecting an intimate connection between people, landscape, and the spiritual realm. Imagine villagers gathering at a spring during planting season, presenting small offerings, chanting prayers, and seeking guidance for the months ahead, the sound of water and voices blending in a gentle, meditative rhythm. Architecture in early Axum reflects both practical needs and emerging cultural sophistication. Homes are constructed from stone and wood, with thatched or flat roofs, arranged to facilitate communal life while responding to the terrain. Storage facilities for grains and water ensure food security, while defensive structures, often simple embankments or stone walls, protect against raiding and environmental challenges. Over time, more monumental constructions appear, including palaces, temples, and early stelae, which demonstrate not only skill but also the cultural priorities of a society increasingly conscious of hierarchy, ritual, and permanence. Trade is central to Axum's early development. Although the kingdom is inland, its proximity to the Red Sea allows it to engage in regional and long-distance exchange. Goods flow into the highlands from Arabia, India, and the Mediterranean, while locally produced commodities such as ivory, gold, and agricultural surplus move outward. Axumite merchants, skilled in negotiation and navigation, traverse rivers, mountains, and desert corridors to reach foreign markets. Picture a caravan slowly making its way along a rocky path, the hooves of camels pressing into stone, the traders' voices mixing with the wind, and the scent of incense or spices lingering in the air. Cultural life blossoms alongside economic growth. Music, dance, storytelling, and artisanal craft form an integral part of daily existence. Lyres, flutes, and drums accompany ceremonies and festivities, while oral traditions preserve knowledge of genealogy, historical events, and cosmology. Artisans produce pottery, textiles, and metalwork, blending local styles with external influences, creating objects that are both functional and aesthetically refined. Imagine a potter shaping clay by hand near the hearth, the soft scrape of tools punctuated by conversation and laughter, while a young apprentice observes, absorbing knowledge that will endure across generations. The social fabric of Axum is closely connected to land, labor, and kinship. Extended families work collectively, maintaining farms, tending livestock, and managing water and forest resources. Elders provide guidance, mediating disputes and passing down wisdom. Local leaders, often related to the royal line or established noble families, coordinate labor and ensure the smooth functioning of settlements. This blend of hierarchical authority and communal responsibility fosters stability, resilience, and a sense of shared purpose. By the early centuries CE, Axum evolves into a sophisticated state capable of exerting influence beyond its immediate highland domain. The kingdom develops a system of coinage using gold, silver, and bronze coins to facilitate trade and symbolize royal authority. Inscriptions on these coins often include the king's name, titles, and religious symbols, communicating power, legitimacy, and cultural values to both domestic and foreign audiences. Imagine holding a small gold coin, its surface inscribed with intricate symbols, a tangible link to the economic, political, and spiritual life of a distant kingdom. Military organization emerges alongside political centralization. While early Axum is not an empire in the classical sense, it maintains armed forces sufficient to protect trade routes, agricultural lands, and settlements. Soldiers patrol strategic passes, secure caravan routes, and when necessary engage in campaigns against neighboring groups or distant rivals. These forces, disciplined and well integrated into society, help maintain both security and the confidence of Axumite rulers in their authority. Religious transformation begins in earnest with the introduction of Christianity in the 4th century CE. King Ezana's conversion marks a profound turning point, linking Axum to the wider Christian world, including Byzantium. Monasteries, churches, and religious scholars flourish, integrating pre-existing spiritual practices with Christian doctrines. This period also strengthens connections through diplomacy and trade, as Axumite envoys, clergy, and merchants interact with distant Christian states, exchanging ideas, artifacts, and religious knowledge. Imagine a stone church in the highlands, its walls cool and quiet, sunlight streaming through narrow windows, monks chanting in the soft, resonant tones of Guizi, while pilgrims arrive to witness and participate in sacred rituals. Cultural continuity and innovation coexist in this period. Artistic motifs evolve to incorporate Christian symbolism, architectural designs reflect both traditional techniques and new influences, and literary production flourishes in Guizi script. Education, religious observance, and artistic creation are intertwined, ensuring that the kingdom's identity remains coherent even as it adapts to new spiritual and political realities. The highlands themselves provide a stage for this integration, with mountains, rivers, and valleys shaping settlement patterns, agriculture, and spiritual practices. Life in Axum is also marked by rhythms of community and landscape. Villages and towns are carefully integrated with the natural environment, using terraced fields, irrigation channels, and communal granaries to sustain livelihoods. Seasonal festivals celebrate planting and harvest, honor ancestors, and strengthen social bonds. Market days bring together people from diverse areas, combining commerce with social interaction and cultural exchange. Imagine a bustling town square, the scent of spices and grains in the air, merchants negotiating, children running along stone streets, and elders observing the harmony of daily life, all under the warm, steady light of the sun. As day turns to evening, Axum's early inhabitants settle into routines of rest, reflection, and spiritual observance. The glow of hearth fires illuminates homes and communal spaces, while the distant sound of livestock and the gentle murmur of rivers create a soothing backdrop. Life unfolds in cycles of labor, worship, learning, and celebration, each generation building upon the work and wisdom of the previous one. In these moments of quiet, the foundation of a kingdom capable of remarkable cultural, economic, and spiritual achievements is firmly established. Reflecting on this chapter, it becomes clear that the early development of Axum is a story of resilience, creativity, and connection. The kingdom emerges from fertile highlands, enriched by trade, strengthened by social cohesion, guided by religious devotion, and expressed through enduring architecture and art. As your mind grows heavy with the gentle cadence of history, imagine walking along the terraced fields, listening to the soft breeze, observing villages illuminated by the last rays of sunlight, and sensing the subtle, enduring presence of a civilization just beginning to rise, preparing to leave a lasting imprint on the world. The story of Axum begins long before the kingdom emerges as a regional power. The highlands of northern Ethiopia and Eritrea were home to communities that practiced early agriculture, cultivating teff and other grains, raising cattle, and constructing simple stone dwellings. These communities were organized around small villages, yet they maintained connections through trade and kinship networks. As centuries pass, we observe the influence of South Arabian cultures across the Red Sea. Merchants and settlers brought new techniques for writing, architecture, and governance. From these interactions, Axum developed a distinctive cultural identity. Imagine small towns nestled among the hills, where homes are built of stone with flat roofs, and pathways wind upward, following the natural contours of the land. In these towns, artisans carve intricate designs into wood and stone, producing tools, ornaments, and ritual objects. By the first centuries of the Common Era, Axum began to emerge as a kingdom of increasing significance. The rulers adopted titles such as Negus, a term for king, and consolidated power over neighboring regions. They oversaw the construction of monumental stelae, tall, carved obelisks marking graves and commemorating achievements. These stelae, sometimes reaching over 20 meters in height, were feats of engineering and artistry, their surfaces adorned with symbolic motifs representing palaces, windows, and divine protection. Trade is central to this early Axumite society. The kingdom is strategically positioned along routes connecting the interior of Africa with the Red Sea ports. Axumites export ivory, gold, and exotic animals, while importing textiles, glassware, and wine. Ports along the Red Sea allow interaction with merchants from Arabia, India, and the Mediterranean. Picture ships sailing with sails of dyed cloth, their hulls creaking gently as they unload goods onto busy docks. Marketplaces hum with the sound of bargaining, the scent of spices and incense filling the air, and the sight of goods from distant lands displayed in careful rows. Political organization in early Axum reflects both tradition and adaptation. Kings rely on councils of elders and nobles, ensuring that governance balances authority with local consent. Inscriptions on stone and metal record decrees, military campaigns, and religious dedications. These writings, primarily in the Guizi script, show a literacy that extends beyond elite circles, fostering communication across the kingdom. Axumite society is hierarchical yet dynamic. Nobles and priests hold influence, but merchants and skilled artisans contribute to the kingdom's prosperity. Women play crucial roles in both domestic and economic life, managing households, tending gardens, and sometimes participating in trade. Social cohesion is maintained through shared rituals, religious observances, and seasonal festivals that mark planting, harvest, and lunar cycles. The kingdom also develops sophisticated agricultural techniques. Terracing slopes to prevent erosion, managing irrigation channels, and rotating crops reflect a deep understanding of the land. Livestock provide not only sustenance but also labor and materials for clothing and tools. In the quiet of the evening, villagers gather around fires, sharing stories and songs that link them to ancestors, a gentle continuity across generations. As we reflect on these beginnings, it is important to notice how Axum blends influences from afar with local innovation. It is a kingdom rooted in its landscape yet connected to the wider world. The stelae, the markets, the farms, and the inscriptions all speak to a society growing in complexity and vision, setting the stage for its later emergence as a regional power. The origins of Axum, therefore, are not merely a prelude but a foundation. Every carved stone, every terraced field, and every trading voyage contributes to the kingdom's identity. As you let your eyes grow heavier, imagine standing in one of these early towns, feeling the cool highland breeze, hearing the soft murmur of daily life, and sensing the quiet energy of a civilization awakening. As we drift further into the highlands of Axum, let us take a closer look at the lives of the people who inhabited this remarkable kingdom. Beyond the stelae and palaces, beyond the kings and merchants, there is the subtle, quiet rhythm of daily life, an enduring pulse that shaped Axumite society for centuries. Imagine waking in a small stone home, its flat roof warmed by the rising sun, the soft light spilling over earthen floors. The household is filled with the gentle hum of activity. Water is drawn from nearby streams, bread is prepared from teff, and livestock stir in their pens. Axumite homes are simple yet sturdy, constructed from stone and wood, often with thatched or flat roofs designed to withstand both the dry winds and the occasional highland rain. Inside, families gather around small hearths, cooking grains and legumes, sometimes adding spices traded from distant lands. Cooking is both nourishment and ritual, a daily act that reinforces family bonds. Women often manage domestic life, preparing meals, tending small gardens, and supervising children's education, while men may engage in farming, herding, or trade. Education in Axum extends beyond reading and writing. Children learn the rhythms of nature, the techniques of farming, and the skills of craftsmanship. Literacy, though primarily concentrated among scribes, priests, and the elite, allows for a subtle spread of knowledge. Guizi inscriptions on stelae, coins, and religious texts provide lessons in governance, morality, and history. Imagine a young boy tracing the carved letters on a small stone tablet, absorbing the language and stories of his people, a bridge between past and future. Farming dominates the economy, shaping both diet and settlement patterns. Terraced fields climb the hillsides, maximizing arable land and preventing erosion. Farmers cultivate teff, barley, wheat, and legumes, often rotating crops to preserve soil fertility. Livestock such as cattle, sheep, and goats are crucial, providing milk, meat, leather, and labor. Shepherds guide their flocks along mountain paths, while the wind carries the soft bleating of goats across valleys. The people of Axum possess a profound understanding of their environment, knowing when to plant, when to harvest, and how to conserve resources during periods of scarcity. Trade remains a vital aspect of society, connecting Axum to the wider world. Caravan routes stretch across the highlands, linking villages to major cities and ports along the Red Sea. Merchants carry ivory, gold, frankincense, and exotic animals, traveling alongside traders from Arabia, India, and even the Mediterranean. Ports such as Obelisks thrive with the arrival of ships laden with cloth, glass beads, wine, and spices. Picture the harbor at sunrise. Wooden ships creak as they unload cargo, merchants gesturing and exchanging goods, and the aroma of exotic spices filling the air, mingling with the scent of salt and seaweed. Social hierarchy in Axum is clearly structured but nuanced. At the top is the king, often called the Negus, who rules with both authority and counsel. Nobles and priests occupy influential positions, advising on governance, religion, and justice. Merchants and artisans hold respect for their contributions to the economy and culture. Farmers and laborers, forming the majority of the population, ensure the sustenance and stability of the kingdom. Though hierarchical, the society functions as an interdependent network. Each role supports the others, creating a cohesive community. Religious life shapes daily routines and community gatherings. Long before the adoption of Christianity, Axumites worshipped a pantheon of deities associated with nature, fertility, and protection. Sacred groves, stones, and altars mark sites of devotion. Priests conduct ceremonies that blend offerings, music, and ritual movement, ensuring harmony between the spiritual and material worlds. With the arrival of Christianity in the 4th century CE under King Izana, religious practices evolve, merging the old with the new. Churches carved from solid rock appear in the landscape, quiet spaces for contemplation, prayer, and education. Imagine the soft flicker of candlelight in a rock-hewn chapel, the scent of incense mingling with the cool mountain air, and a congregation murmuring prayers in Guzi. Architecture in Axum reflects both functionality and artistry. Beyond homes, there are royal palaces, administrative buildings, and monumental stelae. The obelisks, carved from single blocks of granite, serve as both graves and symbols of power, each decorated with intricate patterns representing windows, doors, and sometimes inscriptions celebrating kings' achievements. Some obelisks reach over 20 meters in height, their placement carefully planned to align with sacred and civic spaces. Cities are organized around central plazas, markets, and religious sites, where daily life unfolds with rhythm and purpose. Festivals and ceremonies provide both continuity and celebration. Seasonal cycles dictate the rhythm of planting and harvesting, while religious observances mark life events such as births, marriages, and funerals. Music and dance accompany these occasions, the sound of drums, flutes, and stringed instruments filling open spaces. Evenings often conclude with storytelling, elders sharing myths and history beneath starlit skies, connecting each generation to the enduring memory of the past. Technology and craftsmanship reveal a sophisticated society. Artisans work with metal, stone, wood, and pottery, creating functional and decorative objects. Goldsmiths fashion jewelry and coins, while stone carvers etch inscriptions that will survive millennia. Potters shape clay into vessels for cooking and storage, while carpenters construct doors, furniture, and carts. Tools and techniques are shared and adapted across communities, fostering innovation while maintaining tradition. Women, often less visible in written records, play essential roles in both household and society. They manage gardens, oversee children's education, and sometimes participate in trade and artisanal production. Religious life includes female participation in certain rituals, and women of the elite may wield influence in courtly or diplomatic matters. Their contributions, though subtle, sustain the rhythm and cohesion of Axumite life. Even in moments of labor there is artistry and mindfulness. Imagine a farmer planting teff seeds in neat rows, his hands moving with practiced rhythm, the soil warm and fragrant beneath his fingertips. A potter shapes clay on a wheel, feeling its texture and balance, while a carpenter smooths the edges of a door. Each act, small but deliberate, contributes to the well-being and continuity of the kingdom. As night falls, the highlands are bathed in soft moonlight. Families gather around fires, sharing stories of ancestors, the wind whispering through olive and fig trees. The quiet of the countryside contrasts with the distant murmur of the city, yet both are linked through trade, culture, and faith. The people of Axum live in harmony with the land and the rhythms of daily life, sustaining a society that blends resilience with elegance. Reflecting on these details, it becomes clear that the strength of Axum lies not only in its monumental architecture or its kings but also in the steady, persistent rhythm of everyday life. The markets, the farms, the workshops, and the hearths all pulse with energy, forming a foundation for the kingdom's remarkable achievements. As your mind grows heavy, imagine standing in a quiet marketplace or on a terraced hillside, feeling the gentle breeze, hearing the soft sounds of life, and sensing the subtle continuity of a people whose daily actions build the enduring story of Axum. As the morning sun rises over the Axumite highlands, we turn our attention to the kingdom's expansive networks of trade and influence. Axum is more than a collection of villages, farms, and stone monuments. It is a hub, a crossroads connecting Africa to Arabia, India, and the wider Mediterranean. Trade defines not only wealth but also the cultural and political reach of the kingdom. As we drift through these centuries, imagine bustling ports, camel caravans stretching across deserts, and ships anchored in turquoise waters, their sails catching the light of the sun. The port of Adulis, located on the Red Sea, serves as the primary gateway for foreign commerce. Goods arrive from lands as far away as India, Persia, and the Mediterranean. Precious metals, spices, textiles, and glassware are unloaded from ships, while local products such as ivory, exotic animals, and gold are prepared for export. Merchants move carefully through crowded docks, negotiating deals with distant counterparts, while the cries of sailors mingle with the scent of salt, incense, and freshly baked bread. The port is alive with sound, color, and purpose, a testament to Axum's position in a connected world. Caravan routes extend inland, linking Adulis with Axum and other highland settlements. Camels, with their sure-footed gait, traverse rocky paths, carrying goods over mountains and valleys. Merchants, guards, and traders journey together, moving not only commodities but also knowledge, customs, and ideas. Along these paths, small way stations provide rest, shelter, and water, and local villagers sometimes act as guides or suppliers. The rhythm of the caravans mirrors the rhythm of Axumite society itself, deliberate, careful, and persistent. Axumite traders are adept at navigating both geography and diplomacy. They negotiate with foreign powers, establishing treaties and agreements that ensure the safe passage of goods. Coins minted in Axum, often made of gold, silver, and bronze, circulate widely, bearing inscriptions that demonstrate both wealth and authority. These coins not only facilitate trade but also communicate messages of royal legitimacy and religious devotion. Picture a gold coin glinting in the sun, its surface etched with the profile of a king, a cross, or inscriptions in Guizi, traveling from a highland market to a distant Mediterranean port. The kingdom's influence extends beyond trade. Axumite rulers maintain relations with neighboring regions, sometimes through marriage alliances, sometimes through military expeditions. They interact with the Himyarites of southern Arabia, the Kushites of Nubia, and even the distant Byzantine Empire. Envoys travel across deserts and seas, carrying gifts, letters, and knowledge. Diplomacy is an art, requiring careful observation, respect for customs, and an understanding of power. In this way, Axum shapes the political landscape far beyond its own borders. Religion intertwines with trade and influence. Christianity, adopted officially by King Izana in the 4th century CE, strengthens Axum's connections with the Christian world, including the Byzantine Empire. Churches, monasteries, and religious scholars flourish, and religious texts travel alongside commodities, carrying ideas, beliefs, and stories. Imagine a monk carefully copying a manuscript in a cool stone chapel, his quill scratching softly on parchment, while merchants in the streets below negotiate the price of ivory or textiles. In these layers of daily life, the spiritual and material worlds intersect seamlessly. Axum cities reflect the prosperity brought by trade. Urban centers like Axum itself are organized with precision, featuring marketplaces, administrative buildings, religious sites, and royal compounds. Stone streets guide the flow of people and goods, while terraces and gardens provide space for cultivation and leisure. Palaces rise with careful symmetry, constructed from stone blocks that reflect both skill and aesthetics. Markets hum with energy, yet there is a rhythm, a gentle flow of transactions that feels deliberate, almost meditative. Merchants and artisans play a pivotal role in sustaining this network. Artisans produce textiles, metalwork, pottery, and jewelry, often inspired by both local tradition and foreign influences. Merchants understand not only the value of goods but also the nuances of cultural exchange. A finely woven cloth may be valued for its color and texture, while a carved ivory piece carries significance in both local and foreign markets. Each transaction strengthens connections and extends the reach of Axumite culture. The impact of trade is visible in architecture and urban planning. Some homes and administrative buildings incorporate features influenced by Arabian or Mediterranean styles, adapted for local materials and climate. Water systems, roads, and storage facilities reflect the kingdom's attention to infrastructure, necessary for managing both people and goods. Imagine walking along a paved street in Axum, passing stone buildings with carved facades, hearing the gentle trickle of water from a nearby channel, and sensing the careful planning that allows commerce to flourish. Military power supports Axum's trade and influence. While the kingdom is largely peaceful, it maintains forces capable of defending its borders, caravan routes, and ports. Soldiers patrol critical paths, ensuring safe passage for merchants. At times, Axumite armies travel abroad to protect interests or secure alliances. These soldiers, trained and disciplined, are part of a larger system that blends diplomacy, commerce, and defense, creating stability across the region. Cultural exchange accompanies trade. Foreign ideas, technologies, and art forms travel alongside commodities. Pottery styles, weaving techniques, and artistic motifs reflect interactions with Arabia, India, and the Mediterranean. Religious practices also absorb external influences, blending with indigenous traditions to create unique expressions of faith. In this way, Axum becomes a living mosaic, a society continuously shaped by both its internal traditions and external connections. Even in the countryside, the effects of trade and influence are visible. Villagers may encounter traders from afar or hear tales of distant lands from returning merchants. Exotic goods occasionally appear in local homes. A piece of cloth dyed in vibrant colors, a glass bead from India, or a spice that transforms ordinary meals. These encounters create a sense of a broader world, linking highland villages to far-off shores and civilizations. Axumite society demonstrates remarkable adaptability. The kingdom balances local traditions with external influences, creating a stable, prosperous, and culturally rich civilization. Trade enriches not only material wealth but also knowledge, religion, art, and diplomacy. It is a dynamic interplay of commerce, politics, and culture, one that positions Axum as a central player in regional and international affairs. As night falls, imagine the bustling port at Adulis slowly quieting. Ships are moored, merchants rest, and the harbor lights shimmer on calm waters. Caravans settle along the highland paths, the animals breathing steadily in the cool air. In Axum itself, streets grow quiet, families gather for evening meals, and prayers are offered in small stone chapels. The rhythm of trade and influence slows, yet the threads of connection remain, stretching across mountains, deserts, and seas, a web of human endeavor that sustains the kingdom's vitality. Reflecting on this chapter, it is evident that Axum's power lies not only in kings or armies but in its ability to connect people, goods, and ideas across vast distances. Its trade networks, political alliances, and cultural exchanges weave a tapestry of influence that stretches far beyond the highlands. As your eyelids grow heavier, imagine standing at the docks of Adulis, feeling the cool sea breeze, hearing the distant creak of sails and the soft murmur of conversation, and sensing the enduring presence of a kingdom whose influence reaches across continents and centuries. As we continue our journey through the Kingdom of Axum, we arrive at the heart of its identity, the interplay of religion, kingship, and cultural expression. In Axum, these elements are inseparable, forming the spiritual and civic fabric of a society that balances the sacred with the practical, the monumental with the everyday. As you sink deeper into comfort, imagine the soft glow of candlelight in a rock-hewn chapel, the cool breeze drifting through the hills, and the gentle murmur of prayers carried on the highland wind. The institution of kingship is central to Axumite life. The king, or negus, serves not only as a political leader but also as a religious figure, embodying divine favor and maintaining the kingdom's moral and spiritual order. Early inscriptions show kings presenting offerings to the gods, leading ceremonies and ensuring justice throughout the realm. Each royal decree, carefully recorded on stone, coins, or parchment, communicates authority while reinforcing the interconnectedness of leadership, faith, and society. King Izana, one of the most famous Axumite rulers, marks a defining moment in this story. In the 4th century CE, he embraces Christianity, transforming Axum into one of the world's earliest Christian states. This transition is not abrupt but unfolds over time, merging existing beliefs with new doctrines. Priests, scribes, and scholars adapt rituals, liturgies, and symbols, blending local and foreign practices into a harmonious religious tradition. Imagine a royal court where ceremonies honor both the old gods and the new faith, with incense curling toward intricately carved ceilings, and priests reciting prayers that echo across stone chambers. Christianity strengthens Axum's ties with other Christian powers, including the Byzantine Empire. Envoys travel between courts, exchanging gifts, religious texts, and knowledge. Monks and scholars journey across regions, carrying manuscripts that preserve and disseminate theological ideas. Churches begin to appear, some carved directly from rock, others constructed from stone and timber. These sacred spaces are often oriented to capture the morning light, their interiors filled with gentle echoes that encourage reflection and meditation. The daily rhythm of religious life shapes both urban and rural existence. In cities, priests conduct public rituals, celebrate feasts, and oversee educational programs. In the countryside, villagers maintain smaller shrines, perform seasonal ceremonies, and observe moral teachings passed down through generations. Festivals mark planting and harvest, as well as holy days that honor saints and commemorate historical events. Music, chanting, and movement accompany these observances, creating a gentle, resonant atmosphere that links the physical and spiritual realms. Art and architecture flourish under this religious and royal patronage. Churches, palaces, and monuments are decorated with inscriptions, carvings, and symbols reflecting both faith and governance. Guizi script is employed not only for administrative purposes but also for sacred texts, creating a culture in which literacy, religion, and civic life intertwine. Obelisks, some of which are carved with inscriptions detailing the reigns of kings, stand as enduring markers of Axumite identity and devotion. Imagine walking along a row of stelae at dusk, the shadows stretching across the stone, each monument silently telling the story of rulers, victories, and spiritual dedication. Cultural life extends beyond religious observance. Music, dance, and storytelling form an essential part of Axumite society. Musicians play lyres, flutes, drums, and harps, accompanying feasts, ceremonies, and private gatherings. Storytellers recount tales of ancestors' heroic deeds and the origins of the kingdom, their voices weaving imagination with historical memory. These practices ensure that cultural knowledge is preserved, transmitted, and adapted across generations. Education and scholarship are also closely tied to religion. Monasteries and churches serve as centers of learning, teaching not only religious doctrine but also mathematics, astronomy, and literature. Scholars meticulously copy manuscripts, study foreign texts, and develop commentaries. This intellectual activity contributes to the kingdom's enduring legacy, providing a written record that allows us, centuries later, to glimpse the sophistication of Axumite thought. Imagine a scribe at his desk, the soft scratch of quill on parchment filling a quiet room, a candle flickering beside him, and a sense of timeless dedication surrounding every word. The Axumite economy and material culture reflect the kingdom's religious and political priorities. Coins minted with crosses or royal inscriptions serve both economic and symbolic functions. Markets, filled with textiles, spices, and crafted goods, support urban and rural populations alike. Artisans create religious objects, from intricately carved chalices to simple votive offerings, blending functionality with devotion. Even domestic objects, such as pottery and textiles, display patterns inspired by both local and imported motifs, demonstrating a sophisticated aesthetic sensibility. Kingship, religion, and culture converge in ceremonial life. Coronations, royal decrees, and festivals are elaborate affairs, combining music, visual spectacle, and ritual. Subjects gather to witness the display of authority, affirming loyalty and reinforcing communal identity. Even in quieter moments, the presence of sacred symbols, inscriptions, and artifacts reminds citizens of the unity between spiritual and temporal power. Imagine a coronation ceremony in the palace courtyard, sunlight glinting off polished stone, drums marking each step, and the congregation silently absorbing the gravity and beauty of the occasion. Gender roles in Axum are shaped by both domestic responsibilities and participation in religious and cultural life. Women manage households, participate in market activities, and contribute to artistic production. Some women, particularly in elite or royal circles, influence decisions in court, religious patronage, or diplomacy. Their contributions, though sometimes subtle, are woven into the kingdom's enduring stability and cultural richness. The landscape itself participates in cultural and religious life. Mountains, rivers, and valleys are not merely physical spaces but are imbued with spiritual significance. Sacred groves, rock formations, and springs serve as sites of worship and reflection. Pilgrimages take individuals across the highlands, allowing them to engage physically and spiritually with the land. This intimate connection between geography and culture reinforces the kingdom's sense of rootedness, continuity, and harmony. As the sun dips below the highland peaks, imagine Axum's streets and plazas slowly quieting. Merchants close their shops, artisans put aside their tools, and the distant sound of bells from a chapel marks evening prayers. Families gather in their homes, sharing meals and stories, while candles flicker in the sacred spaces that punctuate the cityscape. The rhythms of kingship, religion, and culture flow together seamlessly, sustaining a society that is both complex and deeply human. Reflecting on this chapter, it becomes clear that Axum's enduring legacy lies in the synthesis of power, faith, and creativity. Kings rule with authority and piety, religion provides moral and spiritual guidance, and culture flourishes in both public and private life. The kingdom's monuments, texts, and artistic expressions are not merely relics of the past but reminders of a society that valued knowledge, devotion, and aesthetic harmony. As you drift further into relaxation, picture yourself walking through a quiet Axumite city at dusk, feeling the soft coolness of stone underfoot, hearing distant chants and gentle music, and sensing the enduring presence of a civilization shaped by faith, leadership, and cultural elegance. As we continue our serene journey through the Kingdom of Axum, we turn our attention to the forces that shaped its territorial reach and the eventual transformations that altered its trajectory. Axum's history is not only written in markets, churches, and stele but also in the careful deployment of military power and the ebb and flow of regional influence. As you settle deeper into comfort, picture rolling highlands, sun-drenched valleys, and the slow, purposeful march of armies across terraced hillsides. The Axumite military, while never vast in numbers compared to some neighboring empires, is highly organized and disciplined. Its primary purpose is not conquest for its own sake but the protection of trade routes, territorial borders, and political stability. Soldiers are trained in the use of spears, shields, and bows, and they move in formations designed to respond effectively to threats. Cavalry, mounted on sturdy horses and mules adapted to highland terrain, provides mobility across the mountainous landscape, while infantry secure roads, towns, and rural settlements. Axumite kings understand that military strength is intertwined with political legitimacy. Royal inscriptions often highlight victories and successful campaigns, demonstrating both prowess and divine favor. Kings like Izana use military power not only to defend the kingdom but also to project influence abroad. Campaigns into neighboring regions, sometimes across the Red Sea into southern Arabia, establish Axum as a formidable presence, securing trade interests and diplomatic leverage. Imagine a procession of soldiers crossing sunlit plateaus, the rhythmic clatter of hooves and the soft thrum of drums marking their progress, a demonstration of order and authority. The kingdom's reach into southern Arabia is particularly notable. Axumite rulers exert influence over parts of the Himyarite kingdom, using a combination of military expeditions, alliances, and strategic settlements. This involvement strengthens commercial networks and ensures the safe passage of goods between Africa and the Arabian Peninsula. It also reflects Axum's capacity for sophisticated statecraft, combining force with diplomacy to achieve long-term objectives. Envoys carry messages and gifts between courts, while merchants, under the protection of Axumite soldiers, travel securely along critical routes. Internally, the military plays a role in maintaining order and supporting infrastructure projects. Soldiers may assist in building roads, bridges, and fortifications, enabling safer transport of goods and people across the highlands. Defensive walls and fortified settlements protect key towns from raiders or local uprisings, while strategic observation posts monitor mountain passes and valleys. In this way, military organization is integrated into the broader functioning of the kingdom, reinforcing both stability and prosperity. Despite its strength, Axum faces challenges that gradually shift the balance of power. Environmental factors such as changes in rainfall patterns or soil fertility affect agriculture and resource availability. Trade routes may be disrupted by political instability in neighboring regions or the emergence of new maritime powers. The combination of these factors leads to periods of contraction, requiring careful adaptation and resilience from both leaders and citizens. As centuries pass, the kingdom's influence along the Red Sea diminishes somewhat. New trade centers emerge, while maritime routes change in response to evolving economic and political landscapes. Axum retains its highland strongholds and continues to flourish culturally and spiritually, yet the flow of wealth and influence that once defined its regional dominance begins to wane. Imagine quiet ports that were once bustling with ships, now still under the high sun, the gentle lapping of water against wooden hulls a reminder of the kingdom's changing fortunes. Decline is gradual and uneven. Some cities and settlements remain vibrant, centers of faith, trade, and culture, while others contract or are abandoned. The kingdom's religious institutions, however, continue to play a stabilizing role, preserving education, art, and scholarship. Monasteries and churches sustain the spiritual life of the people, ensuring continuity even as political and economic conditions shift. Picture monks tending gardens and copying manuscripts in a tranquil cloister, the soft murmur of chants filling stone halls, a quiet bulwark against the uncertainties beyond the walls. Axum's decline is not only external but also internal. The central authority of the kings is challenged at times by local nobles or regional leaders asserting autonomy. Political fragmentation may accompany economic difficulties, requiring careful negotiation and adaptation. Yet, even in times of contraction, the kingdom demonstrates resilience, preserving traditions, religious practices, and cultural achievements that will endure for centuries. Art, architecture, and scholarship remain vital components of Axumite society. Obelisks continue to be carved, churches maintained, and inscriptions composed, documenting both royal accomplishments and the continuity of faith. Artisans adapt to changing demands, blending older forms with new influences. Even as the kingdom's economic or political dominance fluctuates, the creative and spiritual life of Axum remains vibrant, a testament to the enduring ingenuity and dedication of its people. Trade, though diminished, continues to sustain connections with distant lands. Caravans still traverse highland routes, carrying local products to ports and receiving goods from afar. Merchants adapt to changing circumstances, finding new markets and routes. In the countryside, farmers adjust crops and techniques to shifting climate conditions, maintaining subsistence and contributing to local markets. Life continues with a quiet persistence, a rhythm that echoes the kingdom's earlier prosperity while accommodating new realities. The gradual decline of Axum also opens the door to reflection and transformation. As the kingdom contracts geographically and economically, its cultural and spiritual influence often expands. Christianity, deeply rooted in the highlands, becomes a defining feature of Ethiopian identity. Axumite traditions of writing, architecture, and religious observance are transmitted to subsequent generations, influencing societies long after the political structure of the kingdom changes. Imagine a child walking through the shadow of a towering obelisk, feeling a connection to ancestors and history, a subtle continuity that surpasses the rise and fall of rulers. Axum's story reminds us that civilizations are living systems, subject to both internal and external forces, yet capable of remarkable adaptation. Its military power, territorial expansion, and economic networks are balanced by a deeply rooted culture, resilient spiritual life, and sophisticated governance. Even as the kingdom's dominance wanes, the structures, monuments, and traditions it leaves behind continue to shape the highlands and beyond. As night envelopes the Axumite landscape, imagine soldiers resting along highland ridges, the wind rustling through trees and fields. Cities grow quiet, markets close, and temples glow softly with candlelight. Families gather near hearths, recounting stories of kings, victories, and distant lands. In this serene atmosphere, the kingdom's history feels both monumental and intimate, a living tapestry woven from the threads of military discipline, cultural achievement, and spiritual devotion. Reflecting on this chapter, it becomes clear that Axum's legacy is complex and enduring. Its military and political strategies secure stability and expansion, while its culture, religion, and scholarship preserve identity and influence. The kingdom's decline is not a failure but a transformation, a shift that allows its enduring contributions to persist across centuries. As your mind drifts toward rest, picture the quiet highlands under a moonlit sky, the gentle rhythm of life continuing, and the enduring presence of a civilization that shaped both land and imagination. As we reach the final chapter of our journey through the Kingdom of Axum, let us pause and reflect on its enduring legacy. Though the political and economic structures of the kingdom transformed over time, the cultural, spiritual, and architectural imprints of Axum continue to resonate across the Ethiopian highlands and beyond. Picture the highland landscape at dawn, the soft mist clinging to terraced fields and stone ruins, as the memory of a civilization slowly settles around you like a gentle, protective blanket. Axum's spiritual legacy is among its most enduring contributions. Christianity, adopted under King Ezana, became deeply intertwined with Ethiopian identity. Monasteries and churches, often carved from solid rock or constructed with skillful masonry, remain centers of faith and learning. These sacred spaces preserve manuscripts, liturgies, and traditions that continue to influence Ethiopian religious life to this day. Imagine a monk, centuries after the fall of Axum, carefully copying a manuscript by candlelight, his quill moving with deliberate grace across the parchment, preserving both words and wisdom for generations yet to come. Language too is a lasting gift. Gizi, the script and language of Axum, survives as the liturgical language of the Ethiopian Orthodox Church. Its characters, inscriptions, and texts offer insight into royal decrees, religious teachings, and historical events. Even as spoken usage shifts over centuries, Gizi remains a conduit of knowledge, faith, and cultural continuity. Walking past an ancient obelisk or a carved church doorway, one can sense the continuity of human thought and artistry encoded in these inscriptions, connecting past and present through delicate lines etched in stone. Architecture stands as a testament to Axum's ingenuity. The towering stele, intricately carved palaces, and monumental churches demonstrate both technical skill and aesthetic vision. Even in ruins, these structures evoke a sense of grandeur and purpose, embodying a civilization that valued permanence, beauty, and symbolic expression. Imagine standing at the foot of a 20-meter obelisk, feeling the smooth, cool surface under your fingertips, and sensing the care, planning, and labor invested over countless days to create such a remarkable monument. Axumite artistic and cultural expressions continue to inspire. Metalwork, pottery, textiles, and carvings display a blend of local creativity and external influence, reflecting centuries of trade and contact with distant lands. These objects reveal not only skill but also the cultural priorities of Axum: beauty, functionality, and spiritual resonance. A finely crafted chalice, a carved wooden cross, or an ornamented textile tells a story of interconnected lives, markets, and beliefs, quietly whispering of the sophistication of everyday artisans and the broader society that nurtured them. Trade, though no longer the same as in its height, leaves an enduring imprint on regional connections. Axum's networks once linked Africa, Arabia, India, and the Mediterranean, fostering not only the exchange of goods but also ideas, technologies, and cultural practices. Even after the decline of political and maritime dominance, these historical interactions shaped regional economies and cultural landscapes for centuries, leaving a legacy of interconnectedness and adaptation. Picture a highland village, where a small piece of imported glass or spice reminds villagers of faraway lands and distant merchants, bridging time and geography. Axum's story also endures through history and memory. Chronicles, inscriptions, and oral traditions preserve narratives of kings, victories, trade, and religious transformations. These records provide insight into governance, daily life, and societal values, allowing later generations to learn from and reflect upon the accomplishments and challenges of their ancestors. Imagine listening to a storyteller recounting tales of Negus Ezana, of caravans crossing rugged mountains, and of priests chanting prayers in rock-hewn chapels. Each tale, softly spoken, carries fragments of a world long past yet still vibrant in human imagination. Even the natural landscape remains a silent witness to Axum's legacy. Terraced hillsides, ancient roads, and the scattered remains of stele and settlements testify to human ingenuity and persistence. The mountains, valleys, and rivers that shape daily life continue to frame communities, influencing agriculture, settlement patterns, and spiritual practices. Walking through the highlands, one can sense the dialogue between human activity and the land, a rhythm established by generations of Axumites who carefully shaped their environment while respecting its forces. Axum's influence is also evident in the continuity of governance and social organization in the Ethiopian highlands. While the kingdom eventually transitions into successor states, the patterns of administration, local governance, and royal authority persist in modified forms. Civic structures, cultural norms, and religious institutions maintain links to Axumite practices, ensuring that the essence of the kingdom endures even as political realities evolve. Imagine a council of local elders in a village centuries later, their decisions and ceremonies echoing the organizational wisdom established in the early highlands. As the final centuries of Axumite political power recede, the kingdom transforms rather than disappears. Its spiritual, cultural, and architectural contributions create a foundation upon which future societies build. Ethiopian identity, faith, and historical consciousness remain deeply connected to the achievements of Axum, linking past to present in a continuous, evolving narrative. Even in quiet, uninhabited valleys, the presence of Axum resonates in the stones, inscriptions, and ruins, inviting reflection and admiration. In this tranquil final chapter, it is fitting to consider Axum not only as a historical entity but as a living legacy. Its people, practices, and achievements continue to inform and inspire, offering lessons in resilience, adaptation, and cultural richness. Imagine walking through a field of ancient stele at sunset, feeling the cool breeze, hearing the distant call of birds, and sensing the presence of countless generations who lived, worked, prayed, and dreamed in this highland realm. As your breath deepens and your body relaxes, let these images linger in your mind. Think of the markets, the churches, the stele, and the highland terraces as threads weaving a tapestry of human endeavor, enduring across centuries. Axum is not simply a memory of the past but a meditation on continuity, culture, and the subtle beauty of life shaped by both land and spirit. And as you drift further into sleep, let the quiet rhythm of the Axumite highlands guide you. Gentle winds over stone monuments, the soft murmur of a distant stream, the flicker of candlelight in a rock-hewn church, reminding you that civilizations like dreams leave impressions that ripple through time, whispering their stories long after their rise and transformation. As we drift gently into the final reflections of Axum's story, we focus on the ways in which the kingdom continues to resonate through history, memory, and culture. Though the political structures of Axum eventually transformed, its presence endures in the highlands, in architecture, in religion, and in the very imagination of those who look back across the centuries. Picture yourself walking slowly through a misty valley at dawn, where the light falls softly on terraces and scattered stele, and imagine the echoes of a civilization that once thrived here. Axum's memory is preserved not only in stones and inscriptions but in the collective consciousness of Ethiopia. Monuments, particularly the iconic obelisks, are more than remnants of power, they are markers of identity and achievement. The largest of these stele, intricately carved with symbolic representations of windows and doors, stands silently against the sky, a quiet sentinel over centuries of history. Imagine tracing your fingers over the carved patterns, feeling the smooth granite beneath your touch, sensing the patience and skill of the artisans who shaped them long ago. The kingdom's influence extends deeply into religious life. Christianity, as embraced and propagated by Axum, became a defining feature of Ethiopian culture. Churches built during and after the Axumite era continue to serve as places of worship, education, and artistic expression. Liturgical practices, hymns, and manuscripts preserve the continuity of faith and scholarship. Imagine a quiet monastery nestled in a highland valley, candlelight flickering on walls lined with manuscripts, the soft chanting of monks echoing through stone halls, creating a timeless atmosphere of devotion and reflection. Axumite inscriptions and written records contribute to a rich historiographical legacy. Guizi texts recording royal decrees, religious teachings, and historical events remain invaluable to scholars and communities alike. These documents allow us to understand the kingdom's governance, social structures, and cultural priorities. They also demonstrate an early sophistication in literacy, administration, and record-keeping. Imagine opening a fragile manuscript, the scent of aged parchment filling the air, and reading lines penned centuries earlier, connecting you directly to the thoughts and intentions of Axumite scribes. Art and craftsmanship continue to inspire admiration. Jewelry, metalwork, pottery, and textiles produced in Axum reflect both local creativity and influences from across the Red Sea and beyond. Objects designed for religious, domestic, and ceremonial use demonstrate an integration of utility and beauty. The careful work of artisans communicates cultural values, spiritual beliefs, and technical skill. Picture a goldsmith gently hammering a delicate cross, each movement precise and intentional, while the afternoon sun illuminates patterns that will endure for generations. Trade, though transformed by new regional dynamics, left lasting impressions. Axum's historic networks connected Africa, Arabia, India, and the Mediterranean, creating a flow of goods, ideas, and culture that shaped societies far beyond the kingdom's borders. The movement of commodities like ivory, spices, and textiles carried not only material value but also artistic styles, technologies, and social practices. Even after political dominance waned, these networks influenced the development of neighboring regions and successive Ethiopian states. Axum's story is also preserved in oral traditions, which carry the memory of kings, battles, ceremonies, and everyday life. Storytellers recount tales of Negus Izana, of traders navigating perilous routes, and of priests performing intricate rituals. These narratives, passed through generations, maintain cultural continuity, blending history with myth, reality with reflection. Imagine listening to a tale under a starlit sky, the soft crackle of a fire nearby, as stories weave images of the past into your mind, leaving a quiet sense of connection across centuries. The landscape itself remains a living monument to Axum. Terraced fields, ancient roads, and remaining structures continue to shape the rhythms of daily life. Highland communities often inhabit or farm areas once controlled by Axumite authorities, maintaining practices and knowledge inherited from generations past. Pilgrimages to ancient churches, stelae, and sacred groves reinforce both spiritual and cultural identity, connecting contemporary life to the kingdom's historical foundations. Axum's influence is evident in the broader cultural and political evolution of Ethiopia. Administrative systems, religious institutions, and educational practices established during the kingdom's height continue to inform governance and society. Successor states inherited not only land and resources but also social frameworks, trade traditions, and spiritual practices that trace their origins to Axum. The kingdom's integration of local innovation with external influences serves as a model for adaptability and resilience. Architecture remains among the most visible legacies. The rock-hewn churches, some carved from single pieces of stone, and the urban layouts of ancient cities reveal both technical mastery and aesthetic vision. These structures continue to inspire modern builders and historians alike, illustrating the enduring interplay between human creativity and environmental adaptation. Imagine walking through a stone-hewn chapel, its acoustics carrying the soft whisper of your steps, and sensing the ingenuity that allowed people to transform solid rock into sacred, lasting spaces. Even small domestic objects echo Axum's cultural sophistication. Pottery, woven textiles, and ornaments demonstrate a careful balance between functionality and artistry. The techniques and designs used in these objects are often preserved in rural crafts, linking contemporary artisans to their Axumite predecessors. The continuity of these traditions offers a quiet reminder that culture lives not only in grand monuments but also in the daily lives and practices of ordinary people. Axum's story teaches lessons in continuity, adaptation, and human creativity. The kingdom's rise, flourishing, and transformation remind us that civilizations are shaped not only by rulers and armies but also by artisans, farmers, merchants, and priests. Every carved stone, traded commodity, and recited prayer contributes to the enduring narrative of a people and a land. As you allow your mind to settle, imagine the soft rhythm of life across the highlands, the interplay of mountains, rivers, and villages, and the subtle continuity linking generations across centuries. Time in Axum is both linear and cyclical. Historical events, religious observances, and cultural practices repeat and evolve, creating layers of experience that endure beyond political change. Annual festivals, seasonal rituals, and life cycle ceremonies preserve memory while adapting to contemporary circumstances. This blend of permanence and transformation characterizes the kingdom's legacy, emphasizing resilience and continuity. Even in moments of quiet contemplation, the presence of Axum is tangible. Standing before a weathered stele, tracing inscriptions with your eyes, or walking along ancient roads, you feel a connection to lives once lived in these highlands. The labor of hands long gone, the vision of rulers, and the devotion of priests converge into a tapestry that continues to inspire awe and reflection. Imagine the sun casting long shadows across a field of monuments, the wind rustling through tall grasses, and the distant sound of birds echoing over hills, each detail a reminder of human endeavor preserved in stone, story, and memory. As night settles fully over the highlands, imagine the soft glow of moonlight illuminating valleys, churches, and terraces. Communities rest, fires burn low, and the quiet presence of history lingers in every stone, every path, and every whisper of wind. The legacy of Axum is not only in what was built or ruled but also in the enduring sense of identity, continuity, and cultural richness that survives in memory, practice, and imagination. Reflecting on this chapter, it is clear that Axum's influence extends far beyond its temporal existence. Its architectural, religious, artistic, and cultural contributions continue to shape Ethiopia and inspire scholars, travelers, and dreamers worldwide. As your mind drifts into rest, envision the highlands bathed in soft starlight, the monuments standing silently, the echoes of prayers and markets mingling with the night air, and the enduring presence of a kingdom that, though transformed, lives on in memory and spirit.